Hey everyone, thanks for checking out this video. Today we're going to install a Super Pixel kit. So this is the back panel. We're going to start with this piece, and you'll notice it's labeled with some text here on the bottom, so that's how you know the bottom versus the top. And actually, before we get into that, let's just do a quick inventory to make sure we have all of the parts. So there's going to be a bunch of mounting hardware here. These are the wall mounts. I've cheated and already installed those, so if you don't want the wall mounts, then obviously you would skip that step, but you need to do that first. This is the LED panel power cables. We'll talk about that in a second. Ribbon cables for the LED panels. Another power cable here that we're going to need. Here is an on-off switch that is going to go to the Pixel board, which is right here. We've got a bunch of mounting hardware, and then of course we have our LED panels themselves that we're going to mount on this piece of acrylic. And then when we're all done, we're going to mount on the front of the LED panels two more acrylic sheets, one sort of white opaque sheet and this other translucent black sheet. So we'll save those for later. I think that's everything. So as I mentioned, I already started to install these wall mounting things, but I just got two more to go. So on the back of it, you can see it's just a hex nut that's attached to this screw. So we'll just go ahead and put on the final two here. And again, with the wall mount, you need to do that first, because if you install the LED panels, you won't be able to install the wall mount later because the panels will go over it. So make sure if you're doing the wall mount hooks that you install those before you basically do it first. Then you'll be fine. Okay. And you want to make sure these are fairly tight because this is going to be wall mounted after all, and you don't want it coming loose. And then the other thing is just make sure the whole part is facing down for the wall mount panels. Okay, so the next thing you're going to want to do is mount the Pixel board itself. And if we get a little closer look here, you can see it's labeled Pixel. So that's where we want to mount the board. And the board is just going to go like this with the Bluetooth dongle here facing down, and you can see the 4 holes right there. And if you look in your hardware, you're going to see 4 of these little plastic, these are actually rivets. So let's take these and we'll unplug them, and then you see there's the rivet part, and then here's sort of the female part. So we'll take those apart right now and take the 4 female ends that you see here and just place them into the holes. And they should just snap right in. Okay, so now with the rivets in, it's just a matter of taking the male end and then just popping them in there. Okay, so just check to make sure everything's in nice and sturdy. Looks good. Okay, so we got our board here. Now, for this installation, I'm actually not going to mount the Raspberry Pi, but if you did want to add the Raspberry Pi, you can do that. And the mounting is right here. So if you look at, there's 2 holes here and here. Sorry, that might be a little hard to see on the video with the black acrylic there. But here's the 2 holes. So the Raspberry Pi would go like this. And then if you have the new Raspberry Pi, the Model B+, it has different mounting holes. And those holes are also here. So this will work with both the Raspberry Pi first version and then as well as the new version with the Raspberry Pi Plus that has the different 4 mounting holes right here. Okay, so I'm going to skip that for this particular install, but that's what you would do if you happen to have, if you want to include the Raspberry Pi. So now we are ready to move on to mount the LED panels themselves. So you can have 4 LED panels total. And it doesn't really matter which order we go in, but let's just start the top right here. And you just want to put the panel down there, and you can see it line up over here to the mounting hole. And the nice thing about these LED panels is there's actually a little notch, which makes it a lot easier. So once you feel that notch kick in, you know you've got it in the right spot. Okay, so I've got my notch. Now it's just a matter of taking my my mounting screws. They're going to be these guys here. These are metric screws, by the way. So if you lose them or need to get replacement, make sure you get metric. Specifically, they're M5 in terms of the thread size, M5. Okay, there's one. And each LED panel needs 4 screws total. After. Don't tighten up too much, because this is an acrylic panel, and if you tighten it up too much, in theory it could crack. Okay, so that's one panel. Now let's just repeat that 3 more times. And with these LED panels, you'll notice that this side is up. So the side with the 2 connectors here and the power, that's up. So you don't want to put it like this, for example. So, sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier. And you'll know that because once you've installed it, you'll see there's a little hole here, a cutout. These are how you're going to access the cables. So you can only do that if you mounted it the right way. This way wouldn't work. Okay, so let's do the same thing. Just find our notch and line up the holes. There, it just clicked in. Perfect. And let's just go ahead and do that again. And you can almost hold the LED panel. You can't really see it on the other side, but I'm holding it so that you want the panel as close as possible to this one. And so I'm just sort of pushing it this way a little bit so it's closer. That way, once everything's installed, we don't have a gap between the panels and it looks like one big continuous display. Okay, so here's the last screw. Okay, great. So let's turn this guy over and let's see how it looks on the front side. And you can see we got a little bit of a gap here. So we're going to have to fix that and just kind of loosen up this one and push it up a little bit. So let's see which one we need to do. Let's do this one right now. And so again, the mounting holes help, but it's not quite exact. So you just need to kind of make sure you also line it up yourself too. Okay, so push this guy up. So I'm just pushing on the bottom with my hand here and screw it in tight while I'm doing that. And I'll probably have to do the other one too. Let's take a look. Oh, actually that's not bad. So we probably push this one down just a little bit as well. Let's do that right now. Okay, let's take a look now. Perfect. So now you can see, you can hardly see the gaps between the panels. That's exactly what we want. Okay, so now we just need to wire everything up. And this part is fairly easy. So first thing we'll need is our 4 ribbon cables here. And if you'll notice that these are all labeled. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, apologize, I realize it's hard to see with this black acrylic filming this. So we're going to take the first cable, plug it in to this end of the board. And these are called IDC cables, by the way. And we're going to plug this to number 1. And it always goes, the input is on the left side, the output is on the right side. So we want to plug this into number 1 on the left. And these cables are notched, so you can't screw up. You can only plug them in one way. So no need to worry about, oops, a bent pin there. Let's just bend that. Okay. No need to worry about plugging them in the wrong way. And let's take our next cable here, and we'll take it from number 1, the output. Okay, another bent pin. Okay, number 1, the output, and put that into the input of number 2 over here. Okay, looks good. And then the output of number 2 goes to number 3 here. Go. Number 3. Okay. And then the output of number 3 goes to number 4. And since number 4 is the last panel, there is no output of number 4, only the input. Okay, so output of number 3 going to the input of number 4, like so. Oops. Okay, there you have it. Okay, so those are the basically data cables to the LED panels, and the next thing we need is the power. So that's this guy. This is a custom power cable actually, just for this project. And this end is going to go to the power brick. So if I look at the other end of the power brick, it's this. So these are simply just going to connect together like so. But right now I'll unplug that and plug in 3 of these guys to the power cables, power connectors, which you see on each of the panels. So it's these white connectors here. Right there. So let's plug one in here. And again, these also only go in one way. So no possibility to make a mistake, which is always a good thing. That would be a very expensive mistake to make. And this cable here, right here, is going to power the board. Scoot this up a little bit. So right here is going to power the board. And you'll notice that this is actually a prototype unit, so this kind of sticks out a little bit. On the real production unit, this will be a right angle connector, so it won't stick out as much. It'll be a little bit nicer. So for now, we just got to deal with that on this prototype unit. And then if you'll notice that we're missing one power cable here, there's only 3 connectors. So for that, you'll need a separate power cable, which is included in the kit. So we'll go from here, and then this will go into the board. There you have it. Okay. Now the board also has an on-off switch, which looks like this. There's a couple options you can do. You can use the on-off switch and it'll just kind of be loose like this. That's one thing. Or if you don't like that, what I did instead on some light installations, I just shorted it out basically. So it's just this little guy here. If you don't want this on and off switch sticking out, you can just take this guy and pop it in there. It's really up to you. If you do that, of course, then you know it's on all the time, and then to turn it on and off, you just unplug and plug in your power brick here. So up to you. I guess for now, let's put it back to the way the kit comes and go with this on-off switch. Okay, so now comes the moment of truth that we have everything wired up, and always a good idea to do one last check. So let's just make sure that we have the IDC ribbon cable coming out from the board into number 1. This then is coming out of number 1, output here, going into number 2. Number 2 is then going into the input of number 3. Number 3 is then going in to the input of number 4. And then we've got each of our LED panels has power, including the one coming directly from the board here. And that's everything, actually. So the Pixel board has an animation pre-installed, so if we plug it in, it should play. Now there is one caveat in that the out of the box, the Pixel board is actually set up for a 32 by 32 matrix and not the 64 by 64 matrix of SuperPixel. So when you plug it in out of the box, it's actually going to show the wrong image. You'll see an image, it just won't be the right one for the 64 by 64, but that's no problem. We'll just go into our Android device and change that. I'll just show you how to do that right now. But let's make sure that we've got our power and everything looks good. Let's turn on the switch here and then flip this guy over. Okay, so again, you can see the good news is we have everything wired up. As I mentioned earlier, it's not a 64 by 64 because the default animation on the card is a 32 by 32. So you're going to see this, and this is a little bit funny. We'll fix that right now. So I've got my Android phone here. Let's just fix that problem and select the right LED panel so we get a full 64 by 64 image. So first thing we need to do, now I assume that you would have installed the app by now, so get the Pixel LED Art app from Google Play and go ahead and click the Bluetooth icon, and I think I actually pair this to a different one, so let me just turn off Bluetooth and turn it back on. And now we'll wait for Pixel to show up, and here it is. Let me see if I can get a little better zoom so you can see this a bit better. And now I'm going to Bluetooth pair, and the code is 4 zeros, so 0000. Done. And now you can see I'm Bluetooth paired. And then, okay, I already did this, but normally you wouldn't actually have that. You'd have to go in to the settings icon, so I'm going kind of fast, the little wrench here, and you need to pick LED panel, and for you it would have been on the 32 by 32. So we'll go here, we'll pick SuperPixel 64 by 64, go ahead and get out of it, and then we actually have to exit out of the app and then come back in. And then when we come back in, we can now see a full 64 by 64 image here, and that tells us that we have everything set up the right way. Okay, so we just go ahead and pick one, and there you have it, 64 by 64. Okay, so once we've confirmed that, and you can go ahead and just write one of these images too while we're here. So let's just do, this one's kind of fun, I like this ice cream cone. The way you write is you hold down, basically a long tap, and then you can see here it tells you, the screen will go blank while you're writing, and then you can see here the progress. It will take a little longer for some of the longer animations. So just got to give that a few minutes to complete. And what this is doing right now is actually writing to the local SD card on Pixel. So that means that animation will be running locally, and I can actually now go ahead and exit out of this app, and I'm no longer required, I don't need this anymore. Everything is now running standalone. It's running off the local memory of the Pixel board, so I don't need a device connected. So that is the all the wiring, so we're pretty much good. The last step is to mount the front LED panels. So let's go ahead and do that right now. We're going to need 4 of these hex screws here, and then we'll also need some of these, oops, wrong one. Some of these guys here. These are just little hex screws that we can turn. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And these acrylics, they get dust on them, unfortunately, pretty easily, is the reality. So you may want to just take your microfiber cloth here that comes included with the kit, and before you mount it, just do a wipe down on both sides. Always a good idea. This is actually the top piece. We'll just put it down. So you can kind of see that look. Pretty big difference. And actually, you could just leave it like that. It just sort of depends on the kind of look that you want to go for. But Pixel actually ships with 2 panels. The bottom one, which I'm just wiping down right now, is the white translucent piece, and this is just going to give you a bit more diffusion if you want that. It's really totally up to you and personal preference. So if we look at this, for example, okay, so white gives it a little bit more diffusion, then I put the black on it, and this is the way Pixel ships out of the box, so I kind of recommend to start with that, and then you can change things around later if you like. Let's just line up our holes to make sure we're good. Okay. All right, there we are. Okay, so now this part's pretty easy. Just take these 4 hex screws, and you can see here in the lower right there's a little hole right here, and then there's the holes here, so we'll just put the hex screw like so, and then we'll attach the front one with this guy here. Now your kit probably ships with silver color. This one is black. I just happen to have some black ones, but I think the kit ships with silver color. So let's go ahead and plug that one in. And the nice thing about these also is that you can unscrew them by hand, which is pretty nice, because if you ever want to change this front panel to something else, you don't need to get your screwdriver out. You can just literally unscrew it by hand. So that's how that works. So let's go ahead and do the other 4 sides. So here we go. You have 5 reds on the okay, last one. Okay, and then on the other side, we're going to go back to the same screws we had before. These sides, and screw these on the screw. So it's not hard to see. Let's go on the other side and screw that in. Okay, that's not hard to do. This one we can screw in pretty snug. Okay, there's that guy. Let's do this corner. Okay, last one. Right, we're done. So you can see thin actually, because you have to get the LED panel slider. Just one quick note on the back part here. You see there's kind of a little bit of a rat's nest going on here. So what I've typically done, and I don't have any right now, is to just take some duct tape or some tie wraps and just tape and tie wrap all this stuff down, just so it's a little bit cleaner. But if you'll notice that when it's wall mounting, kind of see the wall mount hooks right here, they stick out a little bit, so that's going to give you that extra room so those cables aren't going to bump into the wall. And that's it, we're done. So here's the back, there's the side. You can see that it's pretty thin. Case is about as thin as the LED panels, so we can't get much thinner than that. And we're good to go. Thanks for checking us out, and I hope you have a good time assembling your Super Pixel and as much fun with the project as I did creating it. Thanks again. Bye.